So ijma and qiyas are the secondary sources of the Islamic law, and we know that there are four sources of Islamic law. The first two are the primary sources, which are Quran and Hadith, about which we talked in the previous class. And today we are going to discuss the secondary sources, which are ijma and qiyas. Keep in your mind that whenever there is a question about the secondary sources, you have to mention that these are the secondary sources. The secondary sources are used only when there is no clear teaching either in Quran or Hadith of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Ijma, it is the third source of Islamic law. Whenever we have a question about ijma, so we first of all we have to describe the meaning and its definition. You will start your answer by writing the meaning of ijma. Ijma means the consensus. The meaning of ijma is the unanimity, the consensus. Okay, unanimous decision or the unanimous agreement. Okay, something on which all the people or the group of scholars agreed. Okay, it is known as ijma. Okay, to unite, to agree upon one particular opinion, it is known as ijma. Okay, so ijma, it means a unanimous decision. Okay, on which everyone agreed to that decision, it is known as ijma. We know that whenever we face any problem which is related to a legal matter, which is related to any Islamic issue, we first try to find the solution of this problem from the book of Allah, that is Quran. Okay, since Quran, it just gives us the basic rules and laws. If that is not there mentioned in detail, we look into the hadith or the sunnah of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Okay, but due to the passage of time and due to the advancement and due to the new inventions, new problems are being faced by the people. So new problems are there. So in such type of issues which are not clearly dealt in the Holy Quran, okay, the unanimous decision of the entire Muslim community or the Islamic or the group of the scholars on some Islamic matter about which Quran and Hadith has not given a final word. It has not given a clear teaching. Okay, so such decision or such unanimous decision about such an Islamic issue which has not been discussed and given in detail in the Holy Quran or the Hadith of the Prophet, peace upon him, it is known as ijma. So this is the third source. Because since it is the unanimous decision, it is the decision of the group of the scholars, it has its authority. It is more um, of value as compared to the personal opinion, because personal opinion, which is chaos, it might have some flaws, it might would have some errors, but whatever that has been decided by the unanimous agreement, by the unanimous decision by the group of the scholars, there are less chances that people would go astray or away from the right path. It is due to this reason that the Prophet, peace upon him, has mentioned in his hadith that my community will never agree upon an error. That my community will never agree upon an error. It is due to this reason, because whatever they will decide by their unanimous decision, there are less chances of going away or astray from the right path. Fine. So this is how you have to give a brief introduction of what ijma is, write the meaning, define what ijma is. Okay, it is the unanimous decision of the scholars after the Prophet's demise on a matter which has not been given clear in Quran, Hadith, or Hadith of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Okay, so Holy Prophet, peace upon him, himself, okay, that he has made this ummah, he has made the Muslims an ummah. He wanted that they should be united. So it is an authentic source of the Islamic legal thinking. You should quote this hadith in your answer, that my community will never agree upon an error. And in another hadith, he has also uh, has given the authority of ijma, the source of Islamic law, that gather together the righteous from my community and decide the matter by their counsel. In his another hadith, he has mentioned that gather together the righteous from my community and decide the matter by their council. Okay, so this is how we can say that ijma is one of the valid source of it is one of the valid source of the Islamic law. You also have to mention in your answer that Prophet himself has been commanded to consult, to seek advice from his companions, and he used to consult Shura, the advisory council. He used to consult and he used to seek their advice in different matters. Like before going for war, he consulted with his companions. We will later on discuss the examples of ijma from the Prophet's lifetime, but before that, we have to see that whose ijma is valid, whose opinion or which group of the Muslims would form and their ijma would be considered valid. So there is a difference of the opinion. According to some scholars, it is the ijma of the companions of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. A group of scholars, they are of view that the consensus of the opinion of the companions of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, their agreement, the agreement of the companions of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, on some legal issue, it is considered valid. It is considered the acceptable. While others, they are of opinion that it is the agreement of the community of Medina. Other legal experts, they are of view that it is the agreement of the community of Medina, since Prophet peace upon him lived with them and they were aware about the Holy Prophet peace upon him's practices. So their decision and their agreement is considered valid. Another group of Muslims, they are of view that it should be the whole community of the believers. But this is not possible after the few years, okay, because the community is spread over a wide area. They have been divided in different boundaries on different places. So that is why with the passage of time it has become very much difficult. Okay, that is why the most widely accepted opinion is that it is the opinion of the group of scholars of any generation on any Islamic matter. Their ijma and their consensus would be acceptable. Fine. So first of all, what we have described the meaning of ijma. Then we talked about the definition. We discussed the definition. Okay, the meaning and the definition. Then we have quoted a hadith of the Prophet peace upon him in favor of ijma. Okay, that my community will never agree upon an error. Then we discussed that whose ijma is valid. I gave you 2 to 3 different opinions. One opinion is that only the ijma of the companions, since they were the Prophet's companions, they were aware about Islam more. Okay, so whatever they had decided, it is acceptable, it is valid. Some others, they are of view it is the opinion of the people of Medina, the community of Medina, whatever they practiced and whatever they did, it is considered valid and acceptable for the whole Muslim community. Others, they are of view that the ijma of the rightly guided caliphs, okay, is only valid. But the widely accepted opinion is that the ijma of the a group of the scholars of any generation would be considered valid and acceptable, okay, for that generation, for that people. Okay, so this is the basic introduction of what ijma is. Then there are two major kinds of ijma. Okay, there are two major kinds of ijma. The first is on the matters of beliefs, that all Muslims, they believe that Quran is the book of Allah. They believe that Quran has been sent to the Prophet peace upon him through the angel Jibreel alayhi salam. The whole Muslim ummah, they believe that Prophet Muhammad peace upon him is the last messenger. Such type of ijma, which is the acknowledgement of the beliefs, okay, that is known as ijma on the matters of belief. This is the first type of ijma. And the second type of ijma, it is ijma on the matters, on legal matters. Fine, it is the ijma on the legal matters, okay, particularly concerning the legal matters. And this is what we have defined earlier. Whenever we talk about ijma as the source of Islamic law, we refer to this second type of ijma, that it is the unanimous agreement of the group of the scholars about an issue which the Quran and Hadith or the Sunnah of the Prophet, peace upon him, have not spoken the final word, has not given a clear teaching about it. Okay, so on such type of matter about which Quran and Hadith has not given a final word, the consensus of the opinion of the scholars would be considered valid. It is the valid source of the Islamic law. Fine. Then this second type of ijma is divided into two major subdivisions. It is further divided into two major categories. It is divided into ijma qawli. Qawli means verbal, and there is ijma amali. Amali means action. Okay, through action or through silence or through approval, it is known as ijma amali. So there is ijma qawli and ijma amali. Qawli means whatever the scholars have agreed to verbally. Whatever the scholars have agreed to verbally by their verbal opinion. Fine, like the election of Abu Bakr, they all agreed verbally and they swore their allegiance on his hand. It is known as ijma qawli. It is an example of ijma qawli, that after the death of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the companions verbally and openly accepted Ali Abu Bakr radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu as a caliph. Fine. And ijma amali means whatever they had decided and accepted through their action, through their silence. Fine. Okay, the Quran was compiled after the Prophet, peace upon him's death. Although Abu Bakr was not in favor initially, but he accepted, and Quran was compiled, and this compilation was accepted by the whole Muslim Ummah. Fine, they all accepted it. No one opposed it. It means that they all have accepted the compilation of Quran by Abu Bakr radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu and the panel. So this is how we can divide the second type of ijma into two major categories: ijma qawli and ijma amali. We can have some examples of ijma from the Prophet's lifetime, although we know that ijma is something that has been done after the Prophet's demise, after his death. But if we look into the life of the Holy Prophet, peace upon him, we can find out some of the examples, some of the incidents in which the Prophet, peace be upon him, consulted his companions, which was quite similar to ijma. Like after the Battle of Badr, he consulted with his companions about the prisoners, what to do with them. Okay, and finally, the consensus was that to free them on the payment of ransom. There were difference of opinion. Abu Bakr had different opinion. Umar's opinion was different, but the consensus of the opinion was that to free them on the payment of ransom. Prophet peace upon him acted accordingly. This was the consensus. Again, during the time of the Battle of Uhud, before going for the battle, Holy Prophet peace upon him held a war council. He consulted with his companions. Okay, his own opinion was to stay inside Medina, but majority of the companions, they were in favor to go out and to face the enemy. So what he did, finally, the consensus of the opinion was to go outside the city, okay, and to face the enemy, though he was personally against it. But since the consensus was that they have to go out, so finally he acted accordingly. During the trench, again he held a war council, discussed the matter with the companions, and asked for their opinion. And Salman Farsi radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu suggested to dig the trench. Finally, what was the consensus? The consensus was to dig the trench, and they all participated in digging the trench, and they protected the city Medina from the threat of the enemy. So this is how we can see that he used to consult his companions, and he would make an opinion, and the consensus of opinion was made after taking the opinions from his companions. So this is how he would solve the matters, by discussing it with his companions. So I hope it is the examples from the time of the Holy Prophet, peace upon him, is clear to all of you. So this is examples of ijma from the life of the Holy Prophet. Examples of ijma from the Prophet's time, from the time of the, it's not from the Prophet's time, actually it is from the companions of the Prophet's time. So after the death of the Prophet, peace upon him, companions, they did the same. What they did, they held the shura. and they took the opinion of the panel from the advisory council. Like with the death of the Prophet, peace be upon him, okay, they had to elect the caliph. Okay, and this has been done by their consensus. Okay, the consensus was that Abu Bakr was being elected as a caliph. In the same way, the compilation of the Quran and 20 rakat Taraweeh prayer during the caliphate of Hazrat Umar Radhiyallahu Ta'ala anhu, and the second azan in the Friday prayer during the caliphate of Hazrat Usman Radhiyallahu Ta'ala anhu, these are all the examples of the consensus or the ijma of the companions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Fine. So these are the examples of ijma of the Prophet's companions. Okay. So you can explain these examples by not only writing just the name, that election of Abu Bakr and the compilation of Quran, that why Abu Bakr has been elected, since Holy Prophet, peace upon him, has appointed him to lead the Muslims in congregational prayers during his last illness. Prophet, peace be upon him, has appointed him to uh, lead the Muslims in Hajj. He was the first Amir Hajj. So his leadership has been tested and verified by the Prophet, peace be upon him. So that was the reason that when they wanted to elect the leader, they decided to elect Abu Bakr as a caliph, so that the one who was appointed to lead them in their religious matter must be appointed on them to lead them in their worldly matters also. In the same way, Taraweeh prayer throughout the month of Ramzan after Isha prayer, in which the whole Quran is recited, this was the ijma of the companions of the Prophet during the time of Hazrat Umar's caliphate. To perform 20 rakat, he appointed Abu Ubay bin Ka'b. Since the Prophet, peace upon him, performed it for 3 days, and later on he stopped performing so that it would not become obligatory. It was due to this reason Prophet, peace upon him, stopped performing it in congregation openly with his companions so that it would not become obligatory. Although he wanted to perform it on regular basis, but due to the affair, he stopped performing it in congregation. But during the caliphate of Umar Razila Talano, when he noticed people performing separately, he decided why not to appoint an imam, and he appointed Ubay bin Ka'b Razila Talano over them to lead them in Taraweeh prayer. Fine. To 20 rakat Taraweeh prayer. In the same way, Usman's caliphate, he felt Muslims had difficulty gathering for the Friday prayer on just one azan, and the purpose of azan is to get and to remind the people about the time of the prayer. So it was decided by the experts, by the jurists, by the council members to have second azan in the Friday prayer. Or even you can give the example of the recompilation of the Holy Quran during the caliphate of Hazrat Usman, and he gathered them on the accent of Quraysh. Fine. So these are the examples of ijma of the companions of the Prophet. There are examples of ijma from the recent examples. You can give other examples also. Like this example could be given. Okay, and you should give some of the recent examples of ijma based on Quran or ijma based on the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So some recent examples must come also in your answer, like this example, or like the example of marriage with the grandmother and the granddaughter. Although it is not clearly mentioned in the Holy Quran, in the verse of the Quran, nor in the hadith of the Prophet, peace upon him, since the verse does not clearly mention about marrying the grandmothers or the granddaughters, hence ijma was exercised. Okay, since as the verse mentions the term mothers and the daughters, which could be clearly understood, but it not mentions marrying the grandmothers and the granddaughters. So therefore, through ijma, the ruling is absolute amongst all Muslims that marrying the paternal or the maternal grandmother or granddaughter is also prohibited as an extension of the Quranic verse. The law has been extended from mothers to the grandmothers and from daughters to the granddaughters. So this is the further extension on the basis of ijma of the whole Muslim ummah, that grandmothers are like mothers and the granddaughters are like daughters, although these are not mentioned in the very meaning and the verse of the Holy Quran. Fine. So that was about ijma that we have discussed, that what ijma is and how we can define ijma and the way we can give the examples in our answer for such type of question. So these examples must be given in your answer to explain it clearly.